We've got a big winter storm, ice storm coming into the state of Kansas. This is a major event. It's going to cover most of the state. It's going to be a long event. It'll take most of the weekend in all likelihood. These things, there's always some shifting that takes place, but overall this is a major event. And if I could stress two things to people to do, be these. Number one, be prepared. Do everything now and early to get prepared. And number two, stay home. Once you get all your preparations done, once the event begins, just stay home. Just stay off the roads. It'll make it a lot easier for everybody else taking care of things. We'll get through this at a faster point in time, but please do that. Those are the key things that really we need to do. Kansans have seen these before. But this is a major one. This is a big one, and I think just a lot of practical, common sense things are things that people need to do. In your preparation, make sure you have food, medications, fuel. Make sure your devices are all charged ahead of time. One of the key things that could happen during this storm is power outages for extended periods of time. We've seen winter storms in the past where people were without power for a long period of time, for several weeks. But if you can, get as prepared on that event and a possibility as you can be. Be careful of things like alternate heating sources. If somebody's power's out and you bring in a Coleman stove or you're looking at using the oven, these are not meant, a number of these devices, not meant for indoor use, and they produce carbon monoxide. This can be a deadly thing, and people have died trying to heat themselves in a situation where electricity went out. Just be careful and don't use something indoors that's not meant to be used indoors. Don't fall asleep with candles around. Stay tuned to the weather. Stay away from down power lines. Those are very dangerous that could happen. Today we'll be letting state government out at 2 p.m. So that people can do some last-minute preparations that they might have. It's looking for the National Weather Service, like this will come later today, the first piece of it in this region of the state. We'll be letting state government out at 2 p.m. today, again, so people can do more preparation, early preparation for the overall event. We have a series of presenters that I want to bring up in front of you. We've seen this storm coming for much of this week. A lot of preparation has been done anticipating the storm coming forward, and we'll outline what those things are and plus some other advisory comments to individuals too. I'd like to first bring up the National Weather Service to give you the most recent update of what the situation is across the entire state of Kansas. Much of their discussion will be focused on northeast Kansas, but this is an entire state of Kansas event, and they'll cover that as well. Weather Service?
Yes, we are dealing with a very dangerous...
Identify yourself.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm Audra Hennecke. I'm a meteorologist with the National Weather Service office in Topeka, Kansas. And we are focusing on the impacts of snow as well as ice, of course, for the entire state of Kansas. We are already seeing the impacts across southeast Kansas this morning with some ice on roadways, a light glaze of accumulation, and those impacts are only going to continue to spread northward across the state through the remainder of the weekend coming up here. So for at least the tonight through Saturday time frame, that's where we're going to see most of the impacts of freezing rain developing across southeast to south central Kansas. And it's going to be during the day on Saturday that those impacts start to lift a little bit further northward. So by Saturday afternoon, definitely by Saturday evening, we're going to see at least the entire southern half of the state having that impact for freezing rain concerns. And by the Saturday night through Sunday time period, those hazards will only continue to shift further to the north to impact the entire state of Kansas. The tricky part is when we are dealing with Sunday, we will be seeing temperatures gradually rising, and so we're going to have to be closely monitoring the timing in which precipitation will be transitioning from rain or from freezing rain over to rain, and that will then be diminishing the additional ice accumulations upon that transition of freezing rain to rain. Timing of that could certainly have a significant impacts of higher or lower ice accumulations for certain locations. total ice accumulations at this time, most of the state has a very high likelihood of seeing at least a 1/4 inch of ice accumulations, with many locations generally in the southern or the south central to north central portions of the state, including southeast Kansas as well, that could see ice accumulations of around a 1/2 inch, and can't rule out that there can be some higher amounts as well, possibly upwards of 1 inch total of ice accumulation in some locations. How widespread those higher amounts are, that's something that we're going to have to keep a very close eye on, and will be very dependent on those temperatures as we get into the Sunday time period. As for the time window in which we could expect the most accumulations across the state, definitely during the Saturday night through Sunday period, as well as into Sunday night, that we could be expecting the most ice accumulations across the state of Kansas. In addition to ice concerns, though, there also is the concern for some snow developing across far northwest Kansas. That's going to be more Sunday night into Monday. And areas could be receiving at least 2 to 4 inches of snow, but some locations could be receiving upwards of 4 to 8 inches, or even locally higher amounts in far northwest Kansas. So that will be an additional concern that we will be monitoring. So very challenging forecast that we will be keeping a very close eye on and continuing to update through this entire weekend, but we strongly urge people to stay off the roads and to stay home if at all possible, because any ice accumulation on roadways causes extremely dangerous travel conditions, and so it's better to stay off the roads and to stay home.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Been a lot of preparation going into this. Lee Tafanelli, Adjutant General, has been heading that up for as far as the National Guard. Got a number of National Guard units in position now to be able to be ready to handle this. Lee, come up and brief the people on that.
Thank you. Just to kind of highlight a little bit about the preparations from both the Kansas Division of Emergency Management and the Kansas National Guard. With the notice for this weather system, we've had a lot of opportunity to begin to plan for the preparations to respond to this event. That really began on Monday. We've had a series of conference calls with our Division of Emergency Management, county emergency managers, and other key stakeholders to identify any shortfall of resources, any requirements that they may have that they cannot meet. On Thursday, Governor Brownback issued a state declaration of an emergency, which allows us to open up the Kansas response plan, and that really allows us to utilize all of our state resources and begin the coordination efforts with FEMA and other agencies as we need. With respect to the Kansas National Guard, we have 178 guardsmen that have been activated for this event. A number of those guardsmen will be responsible for the stranded motorists assistance response teams. Their locations are on the graphic to my right. They're going to be there to support local law enforcement and first responders as need be to assist stranded motorists, as well as provide transportation for critical care facility workers and other emergency personnel that may need those transportation requirements. In addition, we've been working with FEMA to look at their generation capability. There's 2 caches of generators that are available. We have one cache that's in Kansas City that is available, as well as one at Tinker Air Force Base, and the Kansas National Guard at Forbes and at McConnell have generator support as well, that as communities may need that support, we can begin to try to get them the generators for that. The last thing that I would mention is that we continue to work with the power sector providers, the Westars, KCP&L, and electric cooperatives to ensure that we have a good situational awareness of their power outages and to begin to address any prioritization for reestablishing power as it need be. Those are basically the outlines of the actions that we've taken to this point in preparation. And again, we've had about 5 days now to prepare for this, and we're very comfortable with where the state is in terms of synchronizing and leveraging its resources. Thank you.
Okay. KDOT has been doing a lot of preparation as well. Richard Carlson, the Secretary of Kansas Department of Transportation, is here to outline what those are and also to give some other advisory notes to individuals this weekend. Richard?
Thank you, Governor. KDOT stands ready right now to assist in all the problems that we have coming up. And I'd like for the people to also know that we have 591 snowplows and trucks that are available and will be available during the ice storm period. We have between 12 and 1,300 operators. These are dedicated and professional workers throughout the KDOT system that will be assisting us in making the road safe. Salt and sand supplies are plentiful. We have plenty on hand and should be more than sufficient to meet this storm. In terms of storm preparations, our crews have been pre-treating all of our highway systems with salt brine since Wednesday of this week. We will begin split shifts shortly so that we can provide 24-hour coverage across the state with our KDOT workers and our crews. During this storm, we will anticipate statewide ice coverage on roads, which is extremely dangerous. Crews will be spreading straight granular salt during that period of time and no brine at that point because the salt will work better at the freezing temperatures. If conditions become too treacherous, our crews will use chains on their trucks to keep moving. I do want to urge our drivers that have to be on the road, please do not follow too closely to the trucks that are doing the sanding and the salt and the brine. We did have an accident on I-70 where no one was, I think, very seriously injured, but please don't follow too closely. Be prepared, drive slowly if you have to be on our roads. So be safe and be aware of KDOT crews, and we want to keep everyone safe on our Kansas roads. Don't travel unless absolutely necessary, but if you're on our roads, we have 511 that they can call for emergency assistance. You can go on KDOT's Can Drive website where there are aerial actual views of the road conditions and what they look like so that people can tell how bad and how treacherous they may be. Black ice on our roads is dangerous. We urge your safety. Thank you, Governor.
Thanks, Richard. To also talk about the road coverage and the work we'll be doing, Colonel Bruce from the Kansas Highway Patrol is here. Colonel, you want to come on up?
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. To echo the governor's comments, we would highly recommend if you don't have a reason to be out over the next couple of days that you stay at home. If you do find it necessary to be traveling, make sure that your vehicle has a full tank of gas. Make sure your windshield wipers are working correctly. Make sure you increase your following distances, reduce your speed. We'll have troopers out on patrol doing their normal thing, responding to slide-offs and accidents and stranded motorists as is standard practice. If you do find yourself stranded along the highway system throughout the state, if you're on most of the state highway system, star 47 will get you into KHP dispatch, and they can dispatch a trooper to assist you. If you happen to be traveling on the Kansas Turnpike, star KTA will put you into contact with dispatch there, and they can also send troopers out to assist you. Thank you.
Thanks, Colonel. Always health concerns in these situations, so we have Secretary of the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, Secretary Moser. Dr. Moser is here to make a few comments and suggestions as well to individuals. Secretary?
Thank you, Governor. I want to go through a few reminders for public health and safety, specifically around carbon monoxide poisoning, fall risk, and medications. So carbon monoxide can kill. We've actually had situations like this in the past where people have died because of carbon monoxide poisoning. So some key reminders around this is that do not use portable generators or fire pits inside or even in your garage. These are not items that are to be used indoors, so these are to be used outside. Also, never use your oven for heating. Don't run your car engine in the garage, even with the garage door open. This can lead to carbon monoxide poisoning as well. So make sure that if you have to get outside, and we remind you we don't want you to get outside if at all possible, but if you have to drive somewhere, move your car outside and then run the car to get it warmed up. And then if more than one person in the home feels ill, that's likely an indication of carbon monoxide poisoning, or if your CO monitor goes off, then make sure that you get everyone outside immediately and call 911. Also, in regards to fall risks, your porch, your sidewalks, your steps can be icy, so if you don't have to go outside, don't even go out on the sidewalk to get your newspaper. Just stay indoors until the ice has gone away. And then for medications, just a reminder, what the governor said is if you're running low on medications, check that today, and then get your medicines refilled today so that you have those to get you through the weekend and even into next week. We don't want you out, and we don't want the people who do the deliveries out on the roads if at all possible. So In summary, be prepared and stay inside if at all possible.
Thanks. Sure. Thanks. One of the biggest things we see in an ice storm is power lines and power line issues. They can go down, they can get ice accumulation, you can get ice and wind on them and break them down. And so I asked Gina Penzig, she's media relations for Westar here, to talk about what they've done in preparation for this ice storm, and then also some advice and warnings. Gina?
Thank you. Over the past few days, we've been communicating with local officials to make sure that we're all ready to respond together in the case of power outages related to this storm. We've also been talking with neighboring utilities. We have some crews that will be coming in from Colorado to assist with restoration. And then we also have talked to other neighbors who know that we may be reaching out this weekend once we have a better idea of what challenges we'll face. I will echo the preparedness message that having a good storm kit, having batteries charged, including maybe a battery-operated radio, is a good idea and advisable. Also, if you have friends, family, or neighbors who are elderly and not able to withstand an extended power outage, make sure that you've talked with them and that arrangements are made so that they can be safe through this. We have outage information available on our website at westarenergy.com. We have an outage center there, which provides instructions of how to download a mobile app to keep updated and how to enroll in text updates related to power outages. We will be working with local media to get information out as the storm develops and we have a good idea of what challenges we might face. And then we'll also be using social media to continually communicate with our customers. If you encounter a downed power line, it's very important that you stay away from it. You should assume that it's energized and could cause injury or even death. And so please report that to 911 and make sure people stay away from any downed power lines. If you experience a power outage, that should be reported to your utility.
We will go ahead and open up to questions about the weather. If you have a specific
Come on up
question,
here, guys, so that anybody can
please let
ask
us
any
know
of
to whom you're directing that question as our principals fill in behind the governor here.
Anybody?
Any
Anything?
questions?
Well,
Did that thoroughly cover everything?
well, I know
Doug?
it's, there's no way to know for sure, but on my Facebook Live I have going here, people keep asking me about just a general timeline again, about when,
That's
what
good.
part of the state that you need to be aware
Good,
of and that
yeah,
sort of
that's
thing.
great to.
Absolutely. For the today period, the main focus is going to be across southeastern Kansas, definitely along and southeast of the I-35 corridor. That's where we're already seeing some of those light ice accumulations already beginning, and that ice is going to be a little bit slow to spread northward, but certainly around the Topeka area as well as into Wichita as well. That could be spreading into those areas tonight into the day on Saturday. However, the higher accumulations for those locations might not be noticeable until through the day Saturday into Saturday night and even continuing into Sunday as well.
Doug, I think they've got a nice graphic of it up here, what they're looking
the
at
screens.
on timelines of what, and that's subject to some adjustment, I mean, because you
Absolutely.
don't know how fast the system moves.
Exactly. If we have any localized bands of higher precipitation amounts, which could increase ice accumulations, also very dependent on Sunday when those temperatures start rising above the freezing mark and that freezing rain transitions entirely over to rain. That's what we will be keeping a very close eye on in our forecast updates through the weekend.
Doug, too, a little chance of flooding because we're looking at a fair amount of precipitation, right? You want to hit that too?
Absolutely. Once the freezing rain transitions over to rain, we will be seeing areas of rain continuing into Monday. So with the ice in place and with some higher rainfall amounts, we will be keeping a close eye just for precautionary purposes of potentially some minor river flooding in some locations. It's not a hands-down effect, but it is something that we will be monitoring very closely as we get into the start of next week.
All right, Megan?
Yes, you've all emphasized people should be doing their preparations this afternoon, get their food and medications and such. So in view of we've got maybe a few hours before things start to hit and you would rather not see people on the road, what are the most important things for people to ensure they take care of before they are in for the weekend?
I'll hit that quickly. Medications, it's got to be up at the top of the list. Food, make sure all your electronic devices are charged. If you got some of these bricks, get them charged up for some of your electronic devices. And then I would just emphasize too, I heard earlier, check on your neighbors. If you've got some elderly or more homebound neighbors, check in with them. Is there anything I can help out with? I mean, it's a very Kansan thing to do, to make sure you're helping your neighbors, and that could help us a lot. Somebody else want to hit what would be different? Angee? Angee, identify yourself.
I'm Angee Morgan. I'm the Kansas Division of Emergency Management Deputy Director for Emergency Management. Items that you don't want to leave your home for would be formula, any type of first aid. The concern is to keep yourself from risk and those that you could provide risk to others. So those are key things. Water. It's a good idea if you can fill your bathtubs with water, so if you lose the power, you could lose our sewer systems in some locations, and at least you'll be able to take that water out of your bathtub then and be able to flush toilets and those things. But of course, drinking water, formula, diapers, any basic life-sustaining needs, and including basic first aid. The challenge with this ice storm, unlike any other hazards that we've faced in Kansas, whether it be a flood or tornado, is we will not be able to move resources. People will not be able to get to medical facilities. First responders may not be able to get to your home. So there's a challenge just of us moving resources. So get those resources now. And I think you can work with the American Red Cross as well as our website, a list of those essential items that are needed in these type of events for suggestions.
Angee, would you cover the 211, 511?
Yes, we work very closely along with our state agency partners, with our volunteer organizations such as the Red Cross and Salvation Army, and one of our strongest partners is the United Way. If any individual or family needs assistance with either meals, power outage, medical needs, debris removal, shoveling snow, please call 211. And the United Way will match up whatever need there is with the appropriate human services program. So 211 for needs, 511 for road conditions, and 911 in life emergencies. Thank you.
Questions?
I think the Red Cross also is going to be providing some help as well. And they're stood up at the Emergency Operations Center.
Yes.
I remember in the most recent weather weekend issue that we had, there was a couple water main breaks. I don't know if that's another concern. I don't know who to direct that question, I guess, to, if anybody knows what to do in that event.
You'd be sure and want to
Step up to the mic, sorry.
yes, any water main breaks, or if you do see power outages, contact your 911 center for something like that, so that can be reported at the Public Works Department in that city. And then we, like General Tafanelli has stated, we've been working since Monday with our counties to identify gaps in resources and any needs of that sort, and they know how to contact us to get resources.
I think the big concern that we've been looking at is you got good likelihood of some power lines going down, and so the power generation system, that's why we've got these mobile generating units pre-positioned to be able to move them to places that may need that as one of the major utility pieces we've been looking at in preparation.
Any final questions?
Thank you all for being here. Stay tuned, and I'd ask everybody to stay tuned to what's taking place across the state of Kansas, so you're situationally aware yourself of what the situation is in your particular area. It's going to be different in different places across the state, and just you need to be aware and prepared. And now's a good time. It's not too late to prepare, so they can be ready for what could be a long weekend. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys for coming.
Oh, of course, thank you.